Hi and welcome to our Daily Bread. I'm Father Paul Seil. It's always great to be with you in the kitchen here. And today we're going to talk about a ministry that's very important to the church now and in the future. But first I want to ask you, if you're Catholic and a cradle Catholic, and you're of a certain age, do you remember the initials CCD? Confraternity of Christian Doctrine. What was it? Well, it's what we now call faith formation. Perhaps you knew the words, the letters CYO, Catholic Youth Organization. Whoop, we don't usually call it that anymore. Now we call it young adult ministry, ministry to youth. As the ministry kind of evolves and goes on, we get other words to explain how we want to use our programs, our ministry really, to pass along the faith to others and to gather them into the church. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about young adult ministry, youth ministry, and as it's played out in our Diocese of Buffalo, New York, and many other dioceses as well. Now, one of the things we're going to do, I want to make some food today with Kathy Goller, who in the Diocese of Buffalo is the Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that. But one of the things you have to have when young people gather, usually, is some kind of food. We all call up the pizzeria and we get pizza, and I love pizza, you know. And we get chicken wings in Buffalo and Western New York. Not always the healthiest thing, but kind of the go-to food. But I find that young people and young adults, every once in a while they like a little something different that they can really sink their teeth into and isn't the same old pizza. We're going to do pizza. In fact, we're going to make, first of all, I'm going to make chicken. That's not chicken wings. It's a baked chicken dish, but it goes over pretty well, and it's easy to do for a large crowd. Kathy is going to make a little kind of an appetizer that looks like it's going to be fantastic with some pastry around it and all kinds of filling. And then we're going to make a traditional, quote-unquote, pizza, but we're going to make it here ourselves with already prepared flatbreads and naan bread, which is N-A-A-N, from India, Indian bread. We're going to start off with a really easy chicken dish, but it's something a little more substantial than chicken wings. I've got some raw chicken. Be very careful with it. We don't want to cross-contaminate or get any of the raw chicken mixed with anything that's cooked or anything that we're going to eat. These are chicken drumsticks and chicken thighs. Now you could get boneless, you could get skinless, you can do it however you want. These are the bone in and the skin on. You may want to trim some of the skin off because it's pretty voluminous, but on the other hand, you might just want to cook it this way. I'm going to show you the way I did it today with our test dish. Let me get rid of this, and I'm going to wash my hands real quick. So I rinsed off the chicken, thighs and legs. Why thighs and legs and no breast meat? Because thighs and legs, first of all, they're very economical. They come this way, less than $1 a pound, number one. But number two, they're very tasty, and it's hard to overcook a chicken thigh or a chicken leg. It's the dark meat, and so it's got more flavor but more fat in it too. So I've got our chicken patted dry and washed off. And this is, as I said, a real easy dish to do. Now I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Let me use this hand. And I'm going to just salt and pepper it. You always want to, most of the time you want to salt and pepper things. Okay. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Now I'm going to arrange these in a pan. I don't want to do double layers. I want them side by side, close to each other, but I want the chicken to eventually get crispy on the outside. Now, as I mentioned, you could always use skinless and boneless if you like. You don't have to. Now we have our chicken in a casserole dish. You know, the nice thing is you can make this for, 40 or 50 people. Use the big disposable aluminum dishes if you'd like, however you want to do it. But the point is to provide the experience of a meal, food, because food was what really draws us together, especially as Catholic Christians. We come to the Eucharistic table. We eat the bread of life. We drink of the cup of salvation. And it's always nice to share a meal that you can kind of sit down, take a few minutes. You don't have to rush right through it. So we've got our chicken. Now I'm going to put some fresh herbs on our chicken. This is dill. You could use a little dill if you like. This is lemon thyme from the garden, which I really like. And that would be my mate. You can mix them. You don't have to. You can use one or the other. You could use dry herbs as well. Wherever you are, whether it's Buffalo, New York, or Boston, Massachusetts, or Detroit, or California, or wherever it is, all of us who are, professionals, if you will, in the church, we're always looking for ways to engage our youth, our young adults, the people who are the next generations of the faith. When I was a young priest, the newly ordained priest always took over CYO. That was 28 years ago, Now there's not as many priests around, at least in our diocese, and so we have to really engender other people and empower them really to take over this wondrous ministry to people who need so much, who want so much, our young people, our young adults. There's always a lot of great questions that come up whenever the young people come together. I always enjoy that. It makes me feel really good about the future of the church. I had some dried mint, I've got some sage. You can put a variety in or whatever you like, as I said, as we prepare to cook these chicken. Now here's what's going to happen though. This is the plan. All right. The chicken will go into an oven at a high rate of heat, 450 degrees for about 15 minutes. Okay? So you put this in the oven, 450 degrees for 15 minutes. It's not cooked then, obviously. Then you remove it from the oven, drain off the juice and the fat, and then cover it with aluminum foil and cook it for another about a half an hour at 350 degrees. Then take the aluminum off, finish it in the oven for another 15 minutes or until it reaches an internal temperature of about 165 degrees. Now, as I said, the bone's in. It may take a little longer to cook, but it'll be fine as long as you get it up to 165 degrees if you have a thermometer, which you should. On the other hand, if you don't have a thermometer, if you cut into it and the juices come out clear, not with the pink color to them, then you also know that it's done. So I'm going to start by putting this in the oven, and I've got one that I've already prepared. So it's a little different. As I said, I find a lot of people like it. Now, in addition to the little bit of salt and pepper and the dried herbs that I put on this, we got some little white balsamic vinegar that adds a nice flavor. Let me get these on the plate. Youth ministry has really changed over the number of years that I've been involved, as a priest in the church. And in just a little while, we're going to have Kathy Goller come in to tell us some of the things that she's observed and how this important youth ministry is growing in different places, and also what you can do and we can do together to empower our young people to be fully formed Catholic Christians, followers of the Lord, and reaching out in love and in justice to other people. I think that looks pretty good. Oh, good. I got a little one there I'm going to taste. I like it. Just a touch of olive oil over the top, and that little bit of white vinegar puts a nice little acid touch there that kind of sharpens and plays against the fat of the chicken. But that's pretty good. So we're going to have some of this later, but don't go away. We're coming right back with Kathy Goller, and she's going to make a great appetizer for us, and we're going to talk about youth and young adult ministry right after this. Welcome back to our show. Today we're talking about youth and young adult ministry on our Daily Bread. And remember, I made in the first segment some chicken legs and thighs. Kathy is going to make a little kind of an appetizer. And then we're going to have some non-traditional pizzas that are very easy, but different than just calling the local pizzeria. Kathy Goller is the Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry for the Diocese of Buffalo.
Indeed, I am.
And what does that, how long have you been with the youth department? We used to just call it the youth department.
Well, back in the day, it was just the youth department. We've expanded our reach, so youth and young adults are included. I've been there for almost 18 years. I've been the director for, about the last 7 or 8. So,
what have you seen the greatest change in with regard to ministry to youth and young adults?
It's a great question. I actually think...
Thank you very much.
that it is... The movement that really in our church today is to, in some ways, less focus directly just on youth or just young adults, but to really take a wide-angle lens at parish life and especially to look at families and to look at the way we're encouraging all people to be disciples, because we recognize how interconnected the system is. A lot of the research in the recent years has shown unequivocally that parents are the primary influence on the faith life of a young person.
And that actually goes back to the charge that they're given at the baptism of their infant children, usually infants, and the minister of the baptism, either the priest or the deacon, will remind the parents that they are the first teachers in the way of faith. They're also called to be the best of teachers, giving witness to the faith by what they say and by what they do. And that's such an important part to integrate, I think, into our ministry. But I think in society, we're so compartmentalized. Oh, this is my life of sports and athletics. This is my life of whatever, the school band, or this is my life in the working world. This is my life, we split it up so much that I find that time is probably the biggest obstacle to effective youth and young adult ministry.
Agreed. That has been the biggest challenge that I've seen growing, that youth ministers face on a parish level. Certainly we see it on a diocesan level as well. Just trying to find young people who will put the time into being engaged in faith. And it's not just the young people, it's their parents too. All of us, I think, find ourselves pulled in so many different directions. It does present some challenges for sure.
We're going to talk about that, but first let's get going on our recipe here. What do you call this?
We are going to make Antipasto squares. They're just one of my favorite appetizers for parties. They're always a big hit. So we start with the crescent roll dough and kind of layer that on the bottom of a 9x13 pan. You've got like a baking pan here. Sometimes I'll use a glass 9x13. Doesn't matter, just as long as it's a good size pan, which we oiled up the bottom just so it doesn't stick. Yeah, otherwise these would be really messy. So, crescent roll dough, one of the good things about it, it's a lot like our church. It's very forgiving. It's a lot like Jesus.
Wow, do you use that often? That's a good one.
But basically, it's going to be a layer of crescent roll dough. Then we're going to layer in some meats and some cheeses, some roasted red peppers. We put another roll of crescent rolls on top. I'm going to start with the ham and sort of alternate meat and cheese, but honestly, it doesn't really matter what goes on where.
Now, the big event in 2016 is in Poland, World Youth Day.
Krakow.
Are there people going from Buffalo?
There are a lot of people going from our diocese. We've got almost 150 going with a group from our office that Bishop Malone is leading that pilgrimage.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a few other groups. Some of our college campuses are taking people. We have another parish that's planning a pilgrimage, and they've got about 40 people. So all told, I think we're going to have over 200 people from Buffalo in Krakow this summer.
What are you expecting in Krakow?
Amazement. World Youth Day is really an event for the ages, and especially with Pope Francis and his energy and the way that young adults connect with him and youth connect with him. I think it's going to be beautiful, and I'm especially excited for this World Youth Day in Krakow. Pope Francis chose Krakow as the site. Certainly, it's the homeland of St. John Paul II, who started World Youth Day. But it's also really, Krakow is known as the home of mercy, of divine mercy.
Oh, sure.
Because St. Faustina.
St. Faustina, I was there once.
Right, and so because she, lived just outside of the central city, and that's where the big shrine is to divine mercy. And John Paul II, of course, was a big devotee of divine mercy. Canonized St. Faustina as the first saint of our millennium.
Named Divine Mercy Sunday.
Exactly.
The eve of which upon he died. Right, yes.
So because of all those connections, Pope Francis chose Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy as the theme of this World Youth Day. It's the perfect place to be celebrating mercy and to really immerse ourselves in what it means to be merciful. And for us as U.S. pilgrims, to think about our legacy of mercy in the U.S. and how that gives us a certain call to be merciful in the world as well.
Could I ask you a question while we're making this?
Absolutely.
So what do we call this again? Squares?
Antipasto squares.
Antipasto
and
squares.
This is, I think, the secret ingredient that I just put on. These are roasted red peppers, not tomatoes. But
of course.
Roasted red peppers, just kind of sprinkle them throughout. They just add a great flavor.
Now, do you put any seasoning, any herbs or anything? Or
I don't, but if you want to, we could go for it.
I think it would be great with a little basil on it.
Go for it. I don't know if you've seen it, Father Paul, but we've got a great new website that we launched just recently.
No, I have not, but tell me.
Oh, it's called havefaithbuffalo.com. We actually surveyed quite a number of young adults to figure out the name, too. And with Buffalo's resurgence, so there's a little bit of that reminder. We got to have faith. And for young adults, a reminder to keep faith important in their lives. It's a unique outreach because it's really designed for young adults who might not be super connected or engaged in their faith. This is a website that greets them where they're at.
Want me to give this a little mix?
That would be great.
You put any water in it or just like this?
I usually just do straight eggs.
Perfect.
It's just really to help them brown. If there's too much from the two, it goes to the side. You just,
Got it.
you know, sometimes if it's baking and not baking fast enough, I just mop up the extra egg, whatever it takes. It really doesn't matter, and to some extent, what exactly we do with youth and young adults. It's not about a certain activity is always a winner. It really has to do with finding out what people in your area need and want, and then just meeting them where they're at.
Well, and the other thing is, too, one of the things we're discovering here at St. Bernadette's is that it has a lot to do with, obviously, relationships with one another, and building up our relationship with Christ through those relationships with one another.
I think Pope Francis has given us a great model to follow, because two of the things he talks about more than any other are encounter and accompaniment. And that is the heart of youth and young adult ministry. Helping young people to encounter each other and their parish, but most especially to encounter Christ. If they're not doing that, if we're not, as parish leaders, helping them to do that, then we shouldn't even be in business. We need to help young people encounter Christ and then accompany them on their journey of faith.
You want me to put a little cheese on the top of this?
Indeed.
Is that the idea?
Yep.
And then we're going to put this in an oven.
Yep.
And
350 usually works about 25 minutes, give or take. When you see it's browning up nicely, there's no pockets of wet eggs, but just basically you want a nice golden brown.
Terrific. Yeah, this is a very easy thing, but it's, again, I always like if you can draw even the young people and young adults in your own family. If you can draw them somehow into the meal, we're halfway there to getting them to understand the Eucharist.
I will say a hint is these definitely cut better when they're cooler. When you take them right out of the oven, they need to set for a little bit, because all those meats and cheeses make it kind of slippery to cut them into squares. So they work a little better when they're cooler.
It looks pretty too. Oh, look at that. Oh, nice little layers there. Well, bless us, oh Lord, huh? Can I try some of these?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think I'm going to, yeah. But don't go, wait, we're not done yet. We've got one more dish we're going to do. We're going to make some real easy, quick, but homemade pizzas. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more and Kathy Goller on Our Daily Bread. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back to Our Daily Bread, where we're talking about youth and young adult ministry today with Kathy Goller, who's the director of that office for the Diocese of Buffalo. Today, we started out, what was the first thing I made? I don't even remember.
Chicken.
Chicken. Oh, I made chicken, of course. I made chicken. And then Kathy made some
Antipasto squares.
Antipasto squares that were really good. And now we're just finishing up with some like little pizza things. But it's not hard. What I was thinking is something you could do with young people or young adults, kind of have a little, almost like a taco bar experience, but with pizza, because we always do call, and it is easy to get the pizzerias, and there's great pizza throughout Buffalo, but this is a little something we're going to do ourselves. What I do is I start with them on a cast iron skillet and an oval cast iron plate. I'm going to do at least one with tomato sauce. Now this is not tomato sauce really, it's tomato paste mixed with a little bit of olive oil. And the nice thing is that it's got a real rich tomatoey flavor, and it's not real watery, so everything's going to stay kind of crisp. What type of toppings do you like, Kathy?
Everything you've got looks delicious. The caramelized onions smell really good.
Okay.
Tomatoes always good. Ham and cheeses. But you tell me what you want to...
What do you think of goat cheese? Fan or not?
Sure, why not?
Why don't we try some of the goat cheese then?
Okay.
Why don't you cut up some slices of that goat cheese? Now, should we do the goat cheese? Let's do the goat cheese without the tomato base. Let's have a kind of a white pizza. That would be good, I think. A little bit of tomato on these. This other one, I'm going to put a little ham on. I'm going to put some arugula.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
And a nice little peppery flavor. And we've got some basil, too, and things that I'm going to cut up. The arugula, this will actually kind of shrink down as when we broil this. Right now, the bottom of the bread is getting toasty warm. And the top of the bread is, will go under the broiler in a few minutes. When somebody's starting out a youth ministry, what would they...
What should they do?
What do they do? Yeah.
They should call us. Parishes can sometimes feel all alone. They can feel like they have to do it all themselves and start from scratch when really there's so many resources in the diocese. I really recommend that a parish call one of our staff members in the office for youth or for young adult ministry, whether it's middle school, high school, or beyond. We can help you to find the best resources. We can help you do a needs assessment and really take a look at your own parish, your own culture to see what's going to work best. What works here for you at St. Bernadette really well in youth ministry might not work so well for me in my home parish at St. Christopher in Tonawanda. It might be something very different that's needed out in Wyoming County. Down in the southern tier, some of their needs are going to be different as well. And so we want to be sure we really tailor the ministry to meet the needs of the people. I mean, that's really the heart of ministry, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't use any sun-dried tomatoes. When will I put those? Let's see if I can fit those on something here. I'll put a few on this one here.
Great. Actually,
I'll sneak those on. That's ham and cheese and little sun-dried tomato and oil.
Ooh, I can smell the basil, too.
Okay, the basil's coming along. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to tear up a little basil here, put that on. How do we make young people feel welcome? I remember somebody said, you got to take the plastic off the furniture. Like you got to open the place up, and if you get a stain of Coca-Cola on the carpet,
to not be afraid of messes is sometimes important.
Yeah.
But sometimes we make things harder than they need to be. The answer to the question, how do you make young people feel welcome, is the same answer to the question, how do you make people feel welcome?
Right. Yeah.
Smile at them, call them by name, treat them like real people, which in young people's case they are. Sometimes us adults, we can be afraid of young people, or we can think that they're aliens or foreign. They're not, they're people. And what I always find in youth ministry is the more we treat young people with respect, they echo that back to us. They mirror back how we treat them. So, even in our parishes, something as simple as at Sunday Mass, how do we make young people feel welcome there? Smile, greet them, make sure that it seems like they have a place to sit. Some young people come to Mass without their families.
I know that. Yeah, I notice that. And I'm often I want to say, hey, glad to see you here, but I also don't want to make too big of a deal.
Right, we don't want to scare them away. It's a little bit like scaring the deer. You don't want to scare them away.
Yes, right, yeah.
But I think some appropriate acknowledgement is a good idea. And for the adults in the community to start to recognize, some of the challenges that our young people face.
So we welcome young people and youth, young adults and youth, by treating them the way we should be treating everybody else in the parish, kind of being some empathy for them regardless of their age.
Right.
Maybe they have elder problems, some of the older folk, and young and this and that. And, I can't tell you how many times in my parish, because I've been here 8 years, so I know a lot of people, and I think everybody knows everybody else. And they say, well, no, I don't know. Who is it? I would probably know their face,
Right.
But as far as having, again, based on a relationship with one another.
That's what I was going to say. It really is about relationship and being genuine. Young people can spot a phony a mile away. I think most of us can. And
sure.
I think especially in church sometimes young people who are brave enough to come, and I say brave enough because sometimes there's some peer pressure to not go to church or to not be involved in their faith. So if they're willing to step out and come, let's not treat them like they have a target in the back and try to drag them into every ministry or every time youth group meets, right?
That's a good point.
Sometimes young people just feel like if I come, then or young adults, especially if I come, but the older people are going to smell like fresh blood. Ooh, don't you want to be on the finance council? Ooh, don't you want to be in the choir?
Ooh, don't you want to move a bunch of chairs? Ooh, don't you want to help clean up?
Right. Instead, let's
do that. We do that all the time.
Be glad
let's
they're here.
Let's get the young folks to do that.
And just try to feed them and address their needs first.
Well, speaking of feeding them, these lovely little homemade pizzas are going to go under the broiler for just a few minutes until the cheese bubbles and browns just a little bit. Well, this pizza really came out beautifully, I think. Now I'm going to anoint our chicken with a little tiny bit of vinegar, white balsamic, which I used also in the cooking process. You could use a little salt if you want. Why do we put the salt on the end instead of in the cooking process? Because then you get a little if you cook with it, it melds into everything. But if you put little sprinkles of salt on, you get little high points of the salt if you want. A little bit of olive oil I'm going to put on our pizzas. You don't have to, but I like it. And just a drop of that. And I really like the traditional balsamic vinegar. I think that'll go nice on this little bit of goat cheese. And you serve this to your young adults and your youth group, you'll probably have them coming back. Especially if you got the wine with the cheese for the over 21s.
For the over 21s,
exactly.
Right.
Which you want to try? Which one? You can try any or all.
That one just looks
okay. Beautiful.
Amazing.
Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
Kathy, you mentioned one other thing, too, that in the summertime, it used to be really that parishes almost shut down. But now we realize that ministry
prime time
is, especially in Buffalo where people are in the wintertime, a lot of times. But everything, there's no time of the year that we cannot do youth ministry or any type of ministry, right?
Agreed.
Okay. It was great having you on our Daily Bread today.
I really had a great time.
I'm
Thanks
try
for inviting me.
And you want to try it?
I do, for sure.
Try it, please.
Absolutely.
Try whatever you like. Oh, there you go. Sure. Yeah. And thank you for joining us too. Remember, go right ahead, eat.
Manja,
as
try
they
that
say.
first.
And thanks for joining us on our Daily Bread. And Kathy Goller, and is it good? You like that? Good. That's
is.
the goat cheese and the caramelized onions. These are really easy to make. You just if you get all the things put them together, boom, 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 you're all set. The best thing is you don't have to make the dough, But thanks for joining us on our Daily Bread and listening to us kind of explore a little bit more about youth and young adult ministry, how important it is to the future of the church, but how important everyone is to the future of our church, and to gather together in the name of the Lord Jesus. We appreciate you being with us. Go to our, if you want these or other recipes, go to odbtv.org. odbtv.org, and you can see full episodes on our YouTube channel. Until next time, God bless you. Thanks. All right, I'm going to try this one here.
The chicken is wonderful.
Good, thank you. One of the things we're going to do, I want to make some food today with Kathy Goller. She is the director of the, what? Youth department? Tell me, somebody, I don't know. Did you hear this? Here's our first time. She said the glistening of the skin. She said, did she mean the chicken or your head?
I thought it was a legitimate question.
Best one today.
Yeah, that's the winner. That's the winner for today.
It's good working with you. I'll see you in 20 years.